recording, and we can get started with the last segment.
You're all set.
Thank you, Chet. So the last segment today is going to be covering public involvement process, Title VI, DBE, EJ, and ADA. I know recently Richmond NPO was really good about getting on top of their Title VI plan that was mentioned in the last certification review. And I'd like to commend Richmond NPO for working hard on getting that updated and getting that submitted to the state DOT for their review and approval. So in this section, originally it was going to be covered by Mary Walker. She's our civil rights manager for the Virginia Division Office, but unfortunately she wasn't feeling well today, so she won't be able to make it. But it'll be Ivan and myself will be covering some of the discussion questions in regards to this section. Before I start, is there any comments or questions from the federal team and also from the MPO?
Rich, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Am I? I apologize. I lost reception there, man. Well, I guess I am live. Okay, well.
Looks like you're muted now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to lead the discussion on public involvement, Title VI, DBE, EJ, and ADA. As Richard mentioned earlier, our civil rights specialist was unable to make it today. So I'm going to try to do this topic some justice in her absence. Let's see here. Chet, I see that you've made some tremendous strides in the improvements with respect to your public engagement plan and your Title VI plan. They look very good. Thank you very much. I guess to start off with public involvement or public engagement. And Chet, if you mind, can you talk a little bit about some of the changes that you made with respect to your public engagement, your public participation efforts?
Sure. I think we can probably, I could probably tag team this with Martha. One of the things that we did back in the fall of 2019, as we started to think about updating our long-range plan, was to start to take a step further back and think more holistically about what the TPO does in general in terms of public engagement in the community, and came up with an organizational public engagement plan. So that's kind of setting the stage for project-specific plans that might come in later. And really, it's a pretty basic report, but it kind of lays out for everybody to see what our intentions are, how we approach the planning process, the different tools that we might utilize to develop a plan, and then how we can bring multiple opportunities and ways for people to be part of the process to the forefront, so that, you know, if I'm a community stakeholder, it's easy to see if you can get to our website and understand how it flows. It's easy to see what the intent is for the TPO and how we want to carry ourselves. And then using that public engagement plan as the foundation, we set some milestones in there where we would do an annual report. That was just completed for the first year. We did a 3-goal approach to public engagement, creating opportunities, informing and education, and then continuous evaluation and improvement. And then I think that there's some appendices in it that talk more specifically about the different tools that we've considered, ranging from, in-person meetings to Metro Quest surveys. And then addressing Title VI non-discrimination, as well as showing buy-in from our elected officials with a signature page. taking it to the next step. When we started developing the long range plan, for example, we have a specific engagement plan for that LRTP that kind of builds off the agency plan. Understanding what the tools are, how we want to incorporate those kinds of things in the process. And clearly, with COVID, we had to adjust that plan and modify it to fit the circumstances. And I think I'm biased, but I think it worked pretty well to kind of flex and provide that additional opportunity.
Appreciate it, Chuck. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the strategies that you use to engage traditionally underserved and underrepresented populations during your long-range transportation plan and program development process?
Sure. So we did, obviously most things for the long-range plan were virtual in nature or focused on technology. So I guess before I get into that, we had an intention and had, just so everybody outside looking in right now can understand, part of our office, we have these open walls that are painted with dry erase paint. So we had a team meeting in there and basically took an entire wall and developed a big matrix of all the different community stakeholder groups we wanted to go talk to. And we wanted to try and get invitations to target specific neighborhoods, locations, faith groups, organizations, those kinds of things. So we started with that as our foundation for outreach, and then quickly realized that wasn't a realistic goal given the circumstances in the world. So keeping those groups in mind, after the brainstorm, started coming up with other options, and that was a wide variety of things, whether it's a traditional comment form that we host on our website, or the way we could just provide a link through an email, asking for feedback on particular things. What are the issues? What do you think of the alternatives we come up with? Those kinds of things. We did specific surveys related to vision goals and objectives using the MetroQuest platform to try and provide some more graphic resources to support the questions, the prompts that we provide. We did wiki mapping, which allows for many different users to think about the spatial implications of transportation decisions and provide comments on a live map on the web. We did multiple mailing lists and email distributions directed to specific stakeholder groups, asking them to facilitate discussions in their specific locations. We did a couple of ArcGIS online maps and distributed those to share information. That's more on the just disseminating information rather than receiving feedback. We did some other type of Google form surveys to get some response to particular directions we were taking with some of the priorities of the plan. And then we did a lot of different social media outreach efforts. Most of those were not consistent throughout the entire process. When we had a particular phase we wanted to let people know about, we went heavier into the social media. And I'm saying all this, Ivan, but I'm well aware that we missed a lot of people. And we ask this every time I get the chance to be on a panel or talk to another MPO, trying to find out what the best practices are, because you could spend a career developing what those tools are, and we're not there yet.
No, absolutely. I'm for the most part, I'm interested in the amount of effort that you put into engaging, in this case, environmental justice communities, low income and minority communities. And sure. That's what the focus is the effort put into it. And I think that's what our regulation speaks to. In terms of the responses that you received from those the environmental justice communities, based on your outreach, what were the top three comments you received from low income and minority populations?
That's a great question. I think that in general, we received responses.
Do you categorize or differentiate comments that you receive from environmental justice communities in terms of, because I know the regulations require you to explicitly respond to the comments that you receive from those communities. So there should be some recording of that. I'm just curious.
Right. We receive regular comments from the communities represented on our CTAC, and those were mostly related to the more urban core impacts from some of the proposed projects.
So you're talking interest groups on your what interest groups you?
Yeah, such as the NAACP, League of Women Voters.
Okay.
Somewhat from universities like VCU. We're talking about student populations. We did, I think, like a lot of our previous efforts, most of the comments we received across the board were related to bicycle and pedestrian efforts, and that was consistent again this time. And it ranged, and there was a wide variety, whether it was related to sidewalk access downtown, out to the bike community who wants to make connections to, say, the Capitol Trail, and how can they get from point A to point B safely. Miles, Sulab, other folks on the call and staff, anything else stand out to you in terms of the environmental justice communities?
Yeah, Chet, when we had the community engagement meeting, I went to the NAACP business meeting, and the top three questions which was asked to me was about transit. People said that they didn't have transit, accessible transit to go to jobs, and didn't have transit accessible for community college. So that was the key question that I heard in those meetings.
So Saluba, you went specifically. This was a targeted engagement effort where you engage, in this case the NAACP, in an effort to engage the concerns of the low income and minority communities. Yep,
that's right.
Yeah, thanks, Sulab, for that reminder. This was pre-March of 2020. It was one of the few outreach efforts we were able to schedule and get in before everything changed.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Let's see.
Ivan, I think the other thing that I'll add that
yes,
we found a lot of success in, and certainly we're still working to nurture the relationships, but there are a lot of stakeholder and advocacy groups in the community that work to mobilize people to be able to come and participate. And so, we've been working more intentionally to connect with a lot of those coalitions. So like RVA Rapid Transit, for the transit public mobility discussion. Senior Connections is obviously a huge representative group that oftentimes can be the voice of the senior population in the region.
Right.
And that's been helpful because they've allowed us to come, not necessarily in the context of the long range transportation plan, but I know, Chet, you've done some speaking engagements with some of their senior circle groups. And so it's more of kind of just a listening session and, what are you concerned about? What do you care about? How do you want to be involved? How do you want to get information? That kind of thing. So we did some early on, I think that's 2 or 3 years ago now, where we went out to different groups and we weren't asking them to comment on things. We were asking them, how do they want to be engaged? And have tried to do that with similar sort of coalitions around the region that represent some of our more disadvantaged communities or those that aren't typically engaged in the process.
Right.
think after we're able to do more in person, we'll step that up again. But that's been, I think, helpful to make sure that we're, to Chet's point earlier, that description of the different channels and what we're trying to accomplish. One of the things that we don't want to do is just show up every 4 or 5 years when we're doing the LRTP.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that members in the community know us, trust us. They hear from us on a regular basis, and they don't just, hear from us kind of in this abstract way when we need something from them. So we're really kind of flipping that aspect on its head and trying to be much more kind of ongoing in our communication. So the website update that was frankly an outcome of the last certification review process was a big step forward in that. And then building a much more robust social media presence has been an ongoing effort of ours. And then I'll just add, and I think you'll probably get to this later, but the Plan RVA Regional Commission Board did approve the establishment of a new position. And so that person, we're recruiting for that position now, a community engagement manager, and their sole focus will really be around building those relationships with community-based organizations and, being a broker to our planners to be able to get this content out into the public in a way that's digestible and accessible to them.
Appreciate that, Martha. Thank you. I really do appreciate this public engagement annual report. This is the first of its kind for the Richmond region. It looks like it's an effort to evaluate, I guess, your services on an annual basis, and I really do like it.
Yeah, we hope the next one is a lot thicker.
I understand, but this is a good effort. This is a good effort. Thank you. And again, really pleased with your updates to your public engagement plan. This is a really good update. How often do you all update your documents? Curious, is it every 3 years? 2 years? What's your timetable for updating and evaluating the effectiveness of
it? Honestly, I think we want to assess it on an annual basis and see where we stand. I think there can be some incremental improvements just based on how we've run it, and it's a lot easier to make those incremental changes when we experience them than try and think back and take stock on a broader schedule.
I see you have an Appendix C, public comments and responses. Now, is this for the public engagement plan, or is this tied to the long range plan, or do you do this for all your products, where you have your public comments and your responses, or just for in this case, just for the public engagement plan as part of your update process?
Yeah, so the Appendix C you're looking at is very specific just to the public engagement plan.
Okay.
We're also, for the long range plan, we're documenting all the feedback received for that specifically. We'd like to do that for every product we have.
Good. It's really good. I appreciate it. All right. On the topic of public engagement and public participation, I'll turn to Richard and Ron to see if they have any questions. There's no questions. I'm going to move on to the discussion of Title VI EJADA. All right.
Thank you, Ivan. I guess this question kind of leads into the next section. I guess my question is, since the last certification review in 2017, has the Richmond NPO received any Title VI ADA Section 504 or any other non-discrimination complaints or like requests from the public, that is, I'm sorry?
No, we haven't received any complaints. I will say that when we updated the website, we took one step forward, and I think with the new Title VI plan, we've taken another step forward to streamline the process by which someone could submit a concern or feedback. But since the last review, we haven't received a complaint.
On that same note, Martha, can you, just looking at your Title VI plan and your Title VI discrimination complaint procedures and investigation law, can you, in addition to the Title VI complaint procedures, can you talk a little bit about your procedures for responding to complaints that are ADA in Section 504 and other non-discrimination related, how you deal with those beyond just Title VI?
So, I mean, generally speaking, whether input that's not, I'll say input that's not solicited, so if it's something that somebody submits that might have comment on content of our website or access in our website, we receive those. There are multiple places in our website where people can submit comments. And, I would say we might get a comment or so once every 2 months that suggests that, a link is dead. Those are easy to fix. We can just kind of route those things internally. But sometimes we'll get a comment that, something is not as easy to understand. So I wouldn't categorize that as necessarily a complaint, but we treat it somewhat the same way so that we can kind of sit down with an internal team and evaluate how we can make an improvement. Because if one person took the time to give feedback that something wasn't available, accessible, provided clearly, odds are there are other people who are in that same situation. So a lot of those things are kind of evaluated on a case-by-case basis, but we try to queue up any resolution to those things and then circle back to the person that submitted that comment or, concern and let them know, we fixed it, we're working on it, this is the status of it, that kind of thing. So.
I guess for ADA and for example, for age discrimination, I think you as the MPO certifies meeting ADA and Oldest American Act requirements. How if there's an age discrimination complaint or ADA complaint, would they fill out use the same form as your Title VI complaint form, or is there something different?
As of right now, yeah, we would use the same complaint form where they would be able to describe the concern, the instance in which they experienced any form of discrimination and, the specifics of that. And then we would route it through a similar process where we would receive it, reach out. I would say, frankly, the same way we would like a Freedom of Information request, where we would acknowledge the receipt of it, and then we would follow up to be able to investigate the concern or the complaint. In cases where there would be an age discrimination complaint, we would also reach out to external resources to be able to assist us so that we could evaluate, either our practices or the resolution. So we've set up those kinds of relationships to be able to help us with those, as well as from a disability. If a person who has a disability submitted a concern or a complaint, we would have access to resources in the community that could help us remedy their concern or complaint.
How would you handle that if you received an ADA complaint from a jurisdiction, a representative from, I throw out there one City of Richmond, for example, or Hanover and Rico, whatever jurisdiction that's on the board? How would you typically handle something like that?
I'm not sure we would do it any differently than if a resident of the community, we would still go through the process to evaluate the concerns and, depending on the nature of the concern and the requested remedy, we would go through the process to seek guidance from our partners. So if it was an older Americans, an older Americans or an age discrimination complaint, we would reach out to Senior Connections if that was the appropriate kind of guiding group for us. If it was from a disability perspective, we would either work with Department of Rehabilitative Services or some of our local alliance groups to be able to help understand the specifics of that particular disability area, but then seek a little bit more broadly, so that we could make sure that we weren't just responding to the acute issue, but the systemic one.
Okay, thank you, Martha. I appreciate it. And bear with me. Again, our civil rights specialist is she couldn't make it today, so I'm filling in the best I can. On page, looking through the Title VI plan on page 3, where you talk about the assurances, and I don't. I guess my question is the VDOT. to VDOT, if VDOT provided that language? I'm sorry, I guess I can put it up on camera here. So
I'm
on
looking
page
at that.
40
It's
like, I
page
think-
43 of the Title VI plan, it says Title VI non-discrimination assurances.
I'll put it on the screen. Hang on one second.
Sorry, I'm getting there.
Yeah, and again, on this, the question is to VDOT. Is this the, did VDOT, did you provide the MPO with this language? I'm just curious in terms of assurances.
It looks, I have to compare, but it looks like the same language that we include in our letter of agreement every year for the funding for PL. So I'd have to do like kind of a comparison, Ivan, but I believe that is where that language comes from.
Okay, is anyone from VDOT available? VDOT Civil Rights Office?
Karina, I'm going to ask that you chime in. Are you on the line, Karina or Farrell?
Sandra, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Sandra, so I'm thinking that the assurances should be 1050.2A, correct?
Yeah, it should be
Is this-
1050.2A, but that's why I want Karina to chime in if she's on the line. Karina?
Yeah, and I'm saying this because I know the MPO has a signed Title VI assurance, but I don't know where this language is coming from. Well, Martha just mentioned where the language comes from, but I don't think this is the right document. And it's important that we get this right. So that's why I'm
Right,
on
the
VDOT.
1050, yeah, the 1052 A is not it. Karina should be on the line.
Can you, I guess after this conversation, can you please submit they have it.
Yeah,
The
they
MPO,
do.
I know they
Yeah,
have it.
the MPO does have it.
Yeah, so it should be from 1050.2A.
Ivan,
Yes,
this is Marcia. Yes, as you were saying, it is part of the agreement, so we have a copy of it. It is, but this is not the same language.
okay.
Karina
this-
says she's speaking, but we can't hear her. But yeah, we can definitely get with Martha and make sure that that's straight.
Okay.
We definitely can.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Martha. I saw this when I was glancing through the Title VI plan, which I think is excellent. You did a great job, but this kind of just caught my attention, and it's really important that we make sure we have the right documentation in your document. But this, and you have it. You have it.
Yes, they do. Farrah, are you on the line? I apologize, guys.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know that they have it.
Yes.
Yes, I do know that that has been sent to them.
I think, and we can certainly update the plan to include the specific language from 1052A. I think the intention was to try to create a more user-friendly, like readable version of that, but I hear what you're saying, that it's better to just use the citation that exists.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it's an assurance, but it also has about 4 appendices to it. So it's kind of more than a citation. But it's really important that document be included in the Title VI plan. And you have it. That's the important thing. You have it. You just don't have it included in, and you could just append it. You could just append the document, just add as part of your appendix.
Yeah, if I'm looking at the right thing, it's attachment 5 of our letters of agreement. So for this year. So, and it's I don't know, 10, like to your point, it's like a 10-point bulleted list. So
That's correct, Martha. You've got the right one.
okay. Yeah, we can easily create an update. They have that lengthier document there.
So I guess, so while we have VDOT on the line, I just got a quick couple of questions, if you don't mind. VDOT, because you are certainly a part of this review. And, you know, I had an opportunity, well, one of the things that we requested Federal Highway Administration is copies of the civil rights non-discrimination reviews conducted by the state with respect to the metropolitan planning process, as well as the PDC process. And I was taking a look at, I'm trying to find it. I was taking a look at your Title VI review and just have several questions based on the content of the review. And specifically, I wanted to know, I guess during your VDOT's review, Title VI non-discrimination review, does VDOT review the MPO's EJ and LEP analysis? And I'm asking the question because, you know, I don't see anything reflected in the Title VI compliance review report on the state's position on that based on their review.
I'm sorry, Ivan, are you asking VDOT?
Yeah, this question is to VDOT. Does VDOT review, for example, the MPO's EJ and LEP analysis that they conducted?
Ivan, I see Karina's trying to speak, but I can tell you that no, we do not.
Okay, thank you, Pharrell. Do you, how about, Pharrell, is there a review of the long range plan and the tip to ensure non-discrimination?
No, there is not.
Do you have a discussion on ADA in section 504? Or the Rehabilitation Act? I didn't.
No, not in our review.
Okay. Is there any coordination that takes place between civil rights and planning with respect to the conduct of the civil rights non-discriminatory review of the MPO planning process?
I'm sorry, Ivan, can you repeat that again, please?
Pharrell, do you coordinate with the VDOT planners during your review of the metropolitan planning process, or do you coordinate with the MPO planners directly?
With VDOT.
There is a joint coordination.
Yes.
Effort with VDOT planning. Okay. And the reason why I guess by asking these questions, Pharrell, is that you know, again, going back to the self-certification statement, in addition to certifying that the MPO is meeting the planning regulations, there's a whole host of Title VI non-discrimination laws that the MPO as well as VDOT are jointly certifying with respect to the metropolitan planning process. I mean, I talked about it earlier, Title VI, ADA, Section 504 Rehabilitation Act, Old Americans Act. So these are, you know, LEP analysis, EJ analysis, all directly tied to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. These are, I think, and we can talk to VDOT later on about, you know, how to go about, I think, improving on the reviews. But these are some of the areas I think that should be included during a Title VI non-discrimination review of the MPO, as well as in this case the MPOs. But we can certainly have that discussion and coordinate with VDOT on I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Someone say something.
No, this is Sandra. Definitely,
Sandra.
Ivan. We can loop back around and work with the MPO on that. We do have a quote unquote FHWA accepted ADA 504 plan, so we can lend some good assistance with that whole process on the ADA 504. With regard to the environmental justice, we're still in that process, Ivan, of working with the governor's initiative with regard to E&J. And so VDOT is in that process. So we don't have an approved method, but definitely have some insight of the direction that we're going. So we definitely can talk offline to see how, best that we can serve the MPO in this arena.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Sandra. I think there's an opportunity there for us to work together on that process as well as on the projects. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Martha, I talked about Section 504 the Rehabilitation Act and ADA, and I wanted to know if the MPO has completed an ADA self-evaluation. Or do you have a documented approach for meeting Section 504 and ADA requirements? Are you familiar with that process?
No.
Okay, we can, because my next question was, do you know the status of local agency self-evaluations and ADA transition plans? And that's something that, Sandra, we can work with the MPO on, and maybe perhaps provide some assistance through some training. To ADA transition plans.
Absolutely. Great.
But looking at this Title VI plan, it is a really good document. And Martha, I appreciate your effort as well as your staff's effort to put this document together. Thank you so much. It really is a great read. It contains a lot of our requirements, demographic profile, the complaint forms are there. It's good information, good document. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Martha.
Glad to hear it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see. Sandra, I'm curious.
Yes, sir.
On 23 CFR 200.9, that section requires the states to conduct civil rights reviews in the MPOs. And I know in your Title VI implementation plan, we set particular targets. In this case, for example, every 4 years. In that section, it also requires the states conduct Title VI reviews of cities, towns, and counties. Has the state conducted the Title VI review of any of the jurisdictions on the MPO board, say within the last 10, 15 years? Just curious.
So we have not, but we are definitely in that process of coming together. We're going to have a facilitated process September with our stakeholder local assistance division. And then that's one of the things that we're going to hopefully start implementing October 1. So we're definitely on that path to have the localities done.
Thank you, Sergeant. I know the new administration is a specific and particular focus on equity and environmental justice.
Yes.
In Title VI. And so, certainly on those efforts, we are eager to work with our state counterparts on how to improve that process, as well as our regional partners.
Yes.
Thank you, Sandra, for that information.
Quite welcome.
Richard, I guess I don't have anything else any other questions or anything else to add. Again, overall, I think the MPO is doing a great job. There are some areas I think we want to work with the state as well as the MPO on to, I think, improve the process a little bit. But overall, really, really a great job. I appreciate staff's efforts in this area.
Thank you, Ivan. They were pretty good, insightful questions that you asked, and I think we got good information from the MPOs. And thank you, Chad. Thank you, Martha.
Absolutely.
I don't really have any other questions too. I think I just have one general question. It's just out of curiosity, is with Richmond MPO, does the MPO offer to translate its documents, if requested, into languages other than English if someone in the community reaches out to you and asking for translation?
Yes. In fact, earlier this year, we went through a competitive process with solicitation to be able to have access to community engagement resources. So we now have an on-call bench, and as part of that bench, we have access to translation services. So we're in the process now of evaluating all of the agencies, the commission's documents, so beyond the RRTPO, but certainly that first and foremost, to be able to identify which of those documents we can work to translate. And some, I think we're going to build into our practice to have as part of the release process for documents, and others will certainly be kind of on demand for translation. And that'll be based on the analysis of the languages that are most prevalent in our community.
Okay, thank you, Martha. And I had another curious question too. Although like the interesting times we're in right now with virtual meetings, but I guess pre-COVID and then maybe looking forward in anticipation of public meetings happening again in person, does the Richmond NPO have kind of a plan or an approach to say if an LEP group comes into one of those meetings and they need assistance in audio translation or even not even LEP, but perhaps like in sign like American Sign Language offer like assistance or anything like that?
Yeah, we have availability, and I think in most of our just even general meeting, not even a public input session, but just our general meeting notices, we include language that invites anyone who would need translation services, auditory services, or other kinds of accommodations that might not be part of the general planning for the meeting. If they contact our office in advance of the meeting, we will work to coordinate those services to either be on site or available to them, depending on what the need and the support resources are available. We've taken steps to be able to incorporate from an auditory perspective, the listening hearing loop technology in our boardroom. So when we do host things there, if there is a person who has a compatible hearing aid device, they can actually, without having to request an accommodation, connect into that system. But certainly if someone needed specific translation services, sign language, or other sort of more specialized support resources, we would work to accommodate that request if it was submitted in time.
Hey, Richard.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in something here that Alec and I talked about during the break that I know Martha and Chet are going to want to hear. Chet had mentioned that you're going to be having training for Title VI for your staff. We'd be glad to take part in that too. If you could, we'll pay for our part. So we'd like to ask that. We're all new here, and you'll all hear that tomorrow, pretty much how green we are with a lot of different things. But that'll be if you let us know when you're planning on doing that, we'll want to make sure that we can see if we can take part in that too, and then pay whatever we need to pay for.
No. Ron, we probably do that through our resource center. There will be no charge for that.
Oh, okay.
This is a service we provide.
I will.
And that was one of my responses to the Title VI survey or Title VI questionnaire that Farrell sent us, was that we really would like to have some training.
Yeah,
So
I think
just one two
a training initiative that we've started to initiate too. Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that the Virginia Association of NPOs is looking at is a multi-day opportunity for Title VI training. One is a facilitated discussion that's scheduled right now with Charles Brown to come talk to all the NPOs in the state. And we're also looking at utilizing our consultant bench to develop a separate day of training for Title VI for all the NPOs as part of the organization. So
that'd be great.
That's an opportunity.
Wow, that sounds great. So Sandra, if we can, I guess, feel free to coordinate on us and coordinate with the with Chet and Ron on scheduling and I guess their preferred timetable for a training, and we can work with our resource center on it.
Will do.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ivan, and thank you, everybody. So at this moment, I don't have any additional questions. Does
I had one more.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I know we got a little time. So yeah, I know at the very beginning, I think Chet, you mentioned, as part of the kind of follow-up from the last cert, regarding for the LRTP update, there was a kind of more robust EJ screen analysis that was undertaken. Would you be able to maybe just expand that a little bit more during this discussion? I know you said that you got like something like 15 metrics or even a visual, something would be good to just kind of get a sense of the scope of the effort. Because it's, I mean, to be honest, I was pretty excited. I wanted to kind of see more. So if you have anything to share, I would be interested in seeing it. And we have, I mean, we have time, right, Richard?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we actually go until 4:30, so we got plenty of time.
Would that be something? I mean, these or just a little bit more?
Sure. Everybody ready to geek out? I mean, this is.
Yeah, no, this is the topic, right? EJ?
That's right.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so if you're interested in their performance metrics, I'd invite Sulab to maybe jump in a little bit and talk about some of the testing that we've done at the project level. And then I think Miles has already talked a little bit about the network analysis for EJ after we have our constrained list of projects. Sulab, are you available?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so is this about all the 15 performance measures which we used in the long range transportation plan, or just the equity part?
Brian, I guess that's a question for you.
yeah, I guess what's the difference? Yeah, I mean, they both sound good. So is equity, you're saying that's a separate component that you use in addition to the.
So basically,
Yeah.
first of all, we developed vision, and based on the vision, we developed 5 broad goals. And within each goals, we had objectives, and within goals, we also had performance measures, which will obviously measure those objectives and goals. So the first goal was safety, which had 2 performance measures, the crash frequency and crash rate. Similarly, we had congestion or mobility, which would measure person throughput and person's hours of delay. And I can go into much more detail in that. So basically, person throughput is the increase in person throughput in peak period. So which basically means there's a project limit, and the number of more people who can access that project within peak hours, which is basically morning 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and 4:30 to 6:30. So those 4 hours, how many more people will be able to access that facility based on the implementation of that plan? So that's project throughput, and it's basically it's measured in all modes of transportation. So for highway, if you are widening, let's say give a simple example of widening a road, that would give you an extra lane, so more people would be able to pass through that lane. And we are measuring it in terms of person throughput rather than vehicle throughput, because that would give us to measure this in all modes. If we are just measuring vehicle throughput, it would just be the highway mode. But if we are measuring person throughput, it will give us that accessibility in all modes. So similarly, we do that for transit and bike ped and park and ride, as well as rail. So we had that capability to measure person throughput based on the implementation of that project. Similarly, we had the person's hours of delay, which is basically the reduction in person's hours of delay in peak period based on the implementation of the project, and it's measured in person hours rather than vehicle hours. So again, same thing. And then we have goal equity and accessibility, in which we have 4 performance measures within that. So we have access to jobs. It's basically looking in the increase in average job accessibility per person, region-wide. So we are basically looking at all block groups, or all TAZs as origins and all TAZs as destinations. So we look at all TAZs as origins and all TAZs as destinations, and then we calculate the net change in accessibility due to the implementation of that project. So the net change could be speed, or could change, could be the areas in which one could reach further destinations, or it could be new accessibility, like if there's no transit project route there, and if you add a transit route there, that's going to be new accessibility. So we're measuring that. So that measure is divided into two categories. One is jobs, and then one is destinations. Job is basically looking at the employment opportunities, and for destinations, we develop data for some of the key destinations like grocery stores, pharmacies, healthcare facilities, school, colleges, government centers, libraries, and parks. So this can be extended in the next round, but due to the hardship of development of this kind of data, we just limited it into these categories. So we'll see the net change in number of weighted destination which could be reached after the implementation of the project. So this is for all TAZs to all TAZs. And then we have the equity component, in which the origin is our equity emphasis area, which we had designated based on our data crunching, in which we looked at 6 different categories. We looked at the traditional low income as well as minority population, which is the requirement. And then we also added the limited English proficiency people, elderly population, disabled population, as well as zero-car households. And then based on some kind of statistical analysis, we designated a particular census block or a TAZ as an equity emphasis area. So this measure only looks at those areas as origins, and the destinations would be throughout the region. So if the accessibility is more to that particular equity emphasis area, it gets more score. So that's the point of making this plan more equitable. So again, we have the same categories as access to destination and access to jobs for easy population or easy areas. And then we have economic development, in which we look at job growth. It's basically looking at the weighted job growth in the vicinity of the project in the future, looking at 2017 and 2045. And then 2 other measures, the connection to truck intensive areas and truck throughput, was basically to give some extra points for freight projects. So if a project is near any truck intensive areas, which is basically areas which generate more truck traffic, like the Port of Richmond, the Richmond Marine Terminals, the Richmond Airport, or any other transportation hub or warehouses, or any other those kind of activities, it gets more point because of the vicinity of the project. And then truck throughput is similar to person throughput, but it just looks at how many more trucks based on the implementation of that project would pass through in given 24 hours. More trucks would pass because of the implementation of the projects. And then finally, we also looked at the environmental and land use categories. So we looked at the sensitive features, basically looked at the percentage of wetlands and water hazard zone, conservation lands, habitat and cultural resources within one-fourth mile of the project limit. The less the overlap, the project gets more benefit. So this would benefit our environmental features. Then we have the air pollution. We just wanted to see that by the implementation of that project, if there is a positive impact in air quality in the region, then it would get more points. So Richmond region has been historically had problems with ozone precursors, the VOx and the NOx. Other pollutants have been pretty good in Richmond. So we basically looked at the reduction of annual VOx and NOx in metric tons. And this was basically calculated based on a simplified version of the EPA data, which is used in MOOBS model. So that similar kind of data was inputted in the travel demand model, and based on if the project is improving speed for highway projects, then we can consider that it's also improving the reduction of these VOx and NOx. So basically, the MOOBS model, if you look at the MOOBS model, if the speed is more than 30 miles per hour, and then it's within 60 miles, the emission is reduced. And if it's more than that, then it starts to increase. So if there is a significant speed change in a particular corridor, it actually benefits the emissions. That was calculated. For alternative mode, like transit or park and ride or active transportation, we just looked at the reduction of VMT because of the mode shift based on the implementation of those projects. So let's say we developed a shared use path and 200 people are riding that, and that's the reduction in the people using cars. So that would be the equivalent VMT reduction, and then we multiplied by the VMT reduction into the factors of NOx and VOC reduction, and then that would be given to that project. Again, we looked at the VMT per capita as well, basically reduction in daily VMT per capita, that it's a positive performance measures if a project can actually reduce VMT. So again, we looked at the VMT. If there is a new interchange, that would reduce VMT because it would reduce the miles which given auto driver has to take. So similarly, if a person uses bike ped or any other mode, that would reduce VMT, auto VMT. So those kind of things were calculated and provided as a score. And then finally, connection to activity centers. So basically, activity centers are those areas in which there is a high density of population and employment in the future. So any projects which is near that gets benefit because of that. So these are the 15 performance measures which we used, which are based on basically looking at the delta change. So it's basically looking at the built and the no built and the delta change. So the severe the delta change, the more the delta change, the project would get more point. The project won't get more point if the base condition is severe, but the actual implementation of the project doesn't give you more benefit. So it's basically looking at the actual benefit which is received, which we get from that particular project.
So Sulabh, I've actually got one of the scorecards with the scores in it. Do you want me to share that to kind of show what the results are? So
sure. Yeah.
Everybody see that update?
Yes.
So this is we have 243 scorecards for all the projects that were tested.
Wow.
And this one is for the Route 1 North BRT route, which is actually one of the BRT that's in the plan, in the constraint list. So you can see the project benefit score down there at the bottom related to the cost and with the final score. And this was actually one of the higher scoring projects, I believe.
So it's sensitive, for terms of EJ, it's sensitive to any disproportionate impacts to low income or minority, but also, I guess, well, and I guess you had other factors, limited English proficiency, maybe it was additional, maybe other additional factors as well. So that's good. I mean, it's you're adding more layers, I guess, of sensitivity. So if a project, let's say, maybe increased truck throughput, I'm assuming that would be a disproportionate impact on the EJ, potentially on EJ community. So that would probably score lower versus a project that may have an environmental and a positive or not have a disproportionate impact. Okay, it's okay. It's very complicated. It's a very robust analysis.
Yeah, so this is the front end analysis to kind of weed out the projects that should be considered for prioritization in our fiscally constrained plan. And then once we have that list applied with the budgets, we come back at the tail end and take the group of constrained projects and test their implications on the EJ areas, which was mostly the census related stuff that Miles was discussing earlier.
Okay. Thank you, Zulab. Thank you, Chet, for showing that or breaking it, actually explain that. Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that discussion. So right now it's 4 o'clock. The next item on the agenda was just basic, is going to be closeout or any follow-up questions that that anybody had throughout the day, but didn't get a chance to answer, or any discussion items that we kind of want to follow up on before we end the day. Is there anything from the federal team?
Richard, I don't have any.
Okay.
I'm good to go too.
Is there anything from the MPO? Anything from you, Chet? Like any questions for us, or any final discussion items you wanted to go over?
I don't believe so. I mean, my initial impression is that the platform worked, and and we can look to continue that for the public portion on Thursday. I appreciate the constructive conversation today. It's been really helpful for the staff to hear.
Yeah, it's definitely good to have the conversation, kind of just have a general conversation and just discuss things that might have missed without conversation, but I'm glad to have it. I was going to share my screen real quick to show the agenda for Thursday's public involvement meeting, just to give the whole group an idea of what to anticipate. Is it coming up for everybody?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so it's going to be the joint public meeting for both Richmond MPO and also for Tri-Cities, and this is going to take place on Thursday, August 26th in the evening. So we plan to have started at 4 p.m. and during the initial segment of it, I'll give an overview of the certification process for the just give a one-on-one crash course for the public and anybody else who's not familiar with the certification process. And so I'll do that real quick, and then at 4:30 we'll open it up to discussion to the public or anybody else who's interested in giving their comments to the MPO. So overall, it'll be about a 3-hour long session. But yeah, does anybody have any questions about Thursday's public meeting?
Richard, this is Chad. I just had one comment, I guess. You had mentioned that there was a review period as you developed the report and the outcomes of these the meetings. Since we are recording these for YouTube, it may be useful for Thursday's meeting to make a statement at some point saying you can watch this after the fact and still submit comments at a later date, if that's an option for the public that isn't being able to tune in live.
Yeah. I'll thank you for bringing that up, Chet. I'll be sure to include that in my presentation slides. In addition to the email contact information that I'll provide also for the NPOs and also for Federal Highway and FTA. So I'll be sure to mention that if they're not able to live stream it, they're more than welcome to look at it at a later time and then still submit their comments. So they'll have, I believe correct me if I'm wrong, Ivan, but I believe the public will have 60 days to be able to submit their comments, and with it still being considered and included in our final report.
Absolutely.
We usually keep it open a few weeks after, just for collection of any comments.
Okay, perfect.
Richard, did you want to maybe make just a quick mention of the process moving forward in terms of draft reports and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. So yeah, the next steps after the certification review and after the public meeting, it'll be a few weeks. Basically, we'll just the federal team will get all their notes together and we'll start drafting the different sections that we covered on today's certification review. And basically, we'll just put together our reporting and then offer any commendations or any recommendations that we might have too. So, and then that'll probably be take approximately be a couple months. So I'm probably looking at maybe like a late maybe November or December timeframe when we'll get everything finalized. So I figure maybe by December we'll have the report finalized, have it signed off, and submitted and available for the MPO to be able to post that on your website. Between then and now too, we'll have open communication. The federal team, that is, will have open communication with the MPO and also with the state too, if we have any questions or we had any follow-up questions during the developing and drafting the report. So the main thing is to be transparent and keeping an open line of communication with everybody too. So no one's is taken by surprise by any end results.
We may come back for points of clarification as we develop the draft report. So hopefully it's always better to have make sure we're stating things correctly when we draft the report. So thank you, Chet. Thank you to your staff for answering our questions and providing us some good insight forward. Also, VDOT, DRPT, and GRTC, and others for participating today too. So thank you for everyone for really sharing some good information and like I said, answering some questions that we had and just sharing with us all the good work that you guys do. So it's a lot. It's really a lot, when you start talking about it, right? You really realize, wow, it's sometimes it's just kind of good to kind of take a pause and then, talk about it a little more. I get to see FTA, I get to see other states, there other NPOs in other states. So I kind of have a different perspective sometimes on how, not always good and bad things. It's just kind of different. So sometimes it's when I see nuggets maybe of good planning, and I can maybe bring those forward to, but these are just recommendations and so forth. But everything, I think you guys you're on par, you're doing really good work. It seems high quality, and we'll just have to follow up on that draft report.
Absolutely.
Did I steal your thunder there? Talking.
Hey, great job, Chet. Appreciate it. Thanks to you and your staff. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. We really enjoyed the conversation more than I thought I would. So I appreciate everybody's time.
Where are you going?
So thank you, everybody. We'll end the meeting today. Thank you again for taking the time, to everybody who was able to attend and offer their feedback and their comments and their questions. So with that said, we'll plan to see everybody on Thursday evening for the